Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lisa Martin with Silver Spring Town Center, and we are so happy to have you joining us for another round of culinary traditions of the Diáspora Latinoamericana. And this one is hosted by Omar Lazo, representing El Salvadoran cuisine. And we also have an array of other folks who will share their family food traditions from across Latin America. Before we get started, just wanted to tell you about a few things Silver Spring Town Center has coming up. We have a virtual art show next Thursday, the 12th of October at 7 p.m., hosted by Marcy Wolf Hubbard, celebrating the colors of autumn. And we have an array of other programs and events that I would encourage you to check out. If you're on this call, you are on our mailing list now. So one of our featured panelists, Kevin Escobar, is an artist, and he's going to be our featured artist in November, on Monday, November 13th. Visual surrealism in the studio with artist Kevin Escobar. So we're so happy to have you, Kevin, and all of our panelists and our host, Omar. Let me tell you a little about Omar. Thank you so much, Omar, for hosting this round of culinary traditions. It's good to have you here. So Omar Lazo, a child of Salvadoran immigrants, holds a bachelor's degree in general business and management from the University of Maryland. With a diverse career, he's worked at the Department of Justice, real estate, and family-owned restaurants. Omar is also an active community member, serving as vice president of the Wheaton and Kensington Chamber of Commerce, trustee at Montgomery College, and chair of workforce development for Montgomery County. He's dedicated to educational equity and small business advocacy, a proud member of multiple Hispanic chambers of commerce. I think that's how I first know you. And a founding member of the Montgomery County Latino Restaurant Association. Omar is a husband and father to 3 talented Latina daughters. So happy to have you. And you're tuning in with us from Los Chorros.
I am. Thank you so much.
So glad to have you.
Sure. I'm actually sitting in my back office, but you have a virtual background.
Oh, okay. That's great. The real restaurant is full of people enjoying some delicious food. I have no doubt.
I'm sure.
And, yeah, well, just to get your mouths watering, I just picked up, because I'm in San Diego, we have a lot of taquerias here, Mexican taquerias. I got some chips with guacamole, and I even have some mezcal.
Wow.
This is the Yui Bal mezcal artisanal joven. So and it looks like water, but I'm sipping. I'm gonna sip it. I haven't started yet, but I might be enjoying that during our discussion. So let me have you take it away, Omar.
Sure. No, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here and to be able to share with you all. I'm just excited, and so I just wanted to just start off just talking. Thank you for the bio. So my family came in from El Salvador in the early 70s, and they came to Washington, D.C., and that's where a lot of the Salvadoran community, which is actually the largest Latino community in the DMV. The majority of the Latinos are Salvadoran. So what ended up happening is when we had an influx of Salvadorans, there really wasn't a lot of Salvadoran food for them to choose from, and they really wanted their food from back home. So my aunt ended up in D.C. just cooking some home food and just kind of selling it, in different places or on the street. And she started making pupusas and tamales, and she would go to pool halls where some of these Salvadorans that worked hard all day would go and hang out. And eventually they opened El Tamarindo, which is in Washington, D.C., which is a staple. in Anna's Morgan. So they opened in probably 1982, 1983. My mom, ended up working there, learning everything. And in 1989, they bought this little pizza shop in Wheaton, and which is, behind me. It used to be just a small little place, little carryout. And one of the keys for them was, talking about food. The community here didn't know what Salvadoran food was back then. So what they ended up doing is we had, my aunt and my uncle worked at a chain, Tia Maria or something. So they learned the Mexican food. And then afterwards, what they did was they created the Mexican and Salvadoran food, so they can entice people coming in to have their fajitas and burritos and their guacamole. As most people know, but they didn't know what pupusas were. So we started serving fajitas and and stuff that was really well known. And then we would slide in a pupusa and be like, try this. So nowadays, when you go to a lot of these Sabi restaurants, now most people know what a pupusa is. And that's the biggest staple of the Salvadoran cuisine. And tortillas, and so we, the Salvadoran food now, they're all over the place. If you go to Wheaton now, there are Latino restaurants everywhere in Wheaton. But when we first arrived here in 1989, 35 years ago, we were the only Latino restaurant in Wheaton. And luckily, with the support of the community, and we've always been involved, and that's how I'm so involved in so many things, is that we were such a part of the community that, I just learned through my parents to always give back to the community. And that's why I serve on so many boards, and, I'm happy to volunteer wherever I can. But my food, if you don't know pupusas, definitely try them. There's many places that you can get them. They're just a tortilla, a cornmeal, corn flour tortilla that's stuffed with your choice of, usually cheese, but you can put pork is traditional, beans, chicken, zucchini. We make jalapeno pupusas that are, if you like a little bit of spicy, they're really, really, really good. That's one of my favorites, actually. And that's me. I've always, liked to cook, learned from my mom. So I'm always experimenting in the kitchen. So we always have, the jalapeno pupusas I put as a special, and they were hit. And we just, ended up putting them on the menu. So that's a little bit about myself. I grew up, it was me and my brother. So, we were curious and we learned how to cook. And when you have parents that work 7 days a week, pretty much, growing up with not a lot of money, we had to learn to cook for ourselves, so we were always curious and asking my mom, how do we make this? How do we make that? We made arroz con leche, which is rice with milk. So most Latinos will know what that is. It's a cinnamon, milk, and rice. And, it's stuff that you can make with, people, if you don't have a lot of money. Rice is cheap. You can get milk from a cow, So that was one of the first things that I asked my mom how to make. And then we made poleada, which is like a rice pudding. And these are all things that are just inexpensive. So a lot of the Latino fare, that's why you have beans and you have rice and you have these things that traditionally, like almost everybody has a version of, we call it mondongo. Sometimes it's sopa de puya. So some of the panelists will share, but it's beef tripe. It might be cow tail. It might be pig feet, plantains, yuca or cassava. Almost every Latin American country has their own little version of it, and it's the stuff that people don't know that's cheap. Traditionally, where it's stuff that sometimes people throw away. So it's funny, like, when you travel Latin America, a lot of these places will have their own version of that soup. But it's something that I remember just as a kid. It says, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
There was a message saying about something about the audio. Okay. Are you there, Lisa? Okay. No, so that's just a little bit about myself. And I guess we can move on to another panelist.
Great. How about if Iane, we can call on Iane Campos Siddique to
Hi everybody. Thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, all right. I'm kind of Yes, so it's so nice to hear stories of it's like your childhood is mixed with the food somehow, and it's so good when you're a kid and you don't have to worry where that food comes from, if your parents can pay for that, even if life was difficult, and you somehow sheltered for that. It's so interesting because in my case, we are 12 kids, and I'm like, whoa, how did my parents never let like there was food there? I was trying to remember any time, like, and then I remember interesting things that I told my mom these days. I was like, why did we drink so much avocado tea? You get the dry leaves and make avocado tea, and it's very nice for kidneys. And my mom would say, oh, your skin is gonna look nice, and the thing was like, in the beginning of the month we had the milk and meat and eggs, and then because we got paid once a month, so as the month would go on, then we'll have not meat, but chicken, and no chicken next week, just eggs, like, and then you have a milk in the beginning of the month, and towards the end of the month, it's more like a tea from whatever you put your hands on. And it was fun, and all, you couldn't even feel that it was like lacking something in the way my mom explained things. So that's a great experience for me, was to have avocado trees in my backyard. And the avocado trees gave us, like so much, because there was this tea. Nowadays, I look for where we can find avocados to gather dry leaves and make tea, because they're like perfumed, they taste nice, and they are good for your kidneys, as my mom said, and for your skin. So that's one thing. And also avocados in Brazil, we don't eat them with salt, we eat them sweet. So it's interesting how Brazil is this Portuguese speaking island surrounded by Spanish countries. And I don't know if it's because the country is so big. People who live in the borders have the privilege to have more contact with the other countries. But if you live in the center of the country, like I'm from Brasilia, almost nobody's from Brasilia. I don't know if you guys know anybody. People, oh, somebody from Rio, somebody from São Paulo, but from Brasilia, I don't know why. But anyway, so in the center of the country, then you have to get whatever you can put your hands on. You don't have the neighborhood with Peru or with Paraguay or Argentina. Like you're right in the middle of the country. So, but we used to eat avocados with sugar, and then we make ice cream, or in the afternoon we eat with milk. You make that thick, like a smoothie, or like you blend it with milk. And it's interesting because my family is from extreme north of Brazil. My mom is from the border with Bolivia, and my dad is from the border with the French Guiana. It's like, woo! And then they somehow meet up in the north and went to Brasilia. And everything we eat in the north of Brazil, you eat with that cassava flour, toasted cassava flour that's thick, like you can chew on the beads of cassava flour. And so we mix that paste of avocado, sweet avocado, with that flour, and that make you feel full and happy, and then you can run and play with your friends. So then I joke with my mom. I said, that was the trick. You eat the flour because then it pops up in your belly.
What's the name? Let me ask a question. What's the name of that flour?
Well, we call them, there are so many different names. So in north of Brazil, we have farinha de puba, farinha d'água, farinha grossa, and they have different sizes of beads, and they are toasted cassava flour. Here's easier to find because there's African cassava flour too, and thankfully we can buy from the African from some stores that have African cassava flour, but they are fine grade, right? They don't have the beads, but I'm happy that at least I can have that to make our farofas. So
I'm I'm
yes.
I'm, I'm smiling because I just like we talked earlier. I went to Brazil in August with my wife, and I had been to Brazil several times, and they always had that on the table, you know. But when I tried to eat it, I would just put it in my mouth, and it was like super dry. And I'm like, how do you eat this? And then my wife went there, and it never dawned on me to ask. My wife asked the waiter, like, what do you do with this? Because she had never seen it before. And they were like, you can mix it with the beans. And I was like, okay, so I mixed it with the beans, and I'm like, I guess that's how I was supposed to be eating this. But it's funny because I had seen that, and I was like, this is terrible. Because when you eat it, it's just super dry by itself. I didn't realize you had to mix it with other foods.
Exactly. My students say, "Oh, sawdust? You mean?" I said, "No, that's cassava flour. That's toasted. It's not sawdust."
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
also get seasoning like meats or eggs or like onions, fry it because it's a coringa in your kitchen. Because whatever you have in your refrigerator you can kind of saute and put a lot of like whatever oil you have or even what is it I say that manteiga now I can't remember in English butter and then you put cassava flour and you make that farofa. But you're
Farofa,
supposed
yeah.
to eat with some kind of broth or otherwise it is sawdust as my students say. So it's interesting. So that's my I always remember with the avocado because the avocado tree had this thing for us to give the leaves, the avocado itself, and we could trade with the neighbors too for chayotes that in Brazil we call chuchu, and they're so abundant. So some neighbors have lots of chayotes, and we have what we call chuchu, and then we trade with avocados, and you get rid of the so many avocados that your mom can make so many dishes with that. So it's fun. And nowadays, I remember this. We are embarrassed when we are teenagers, like, oh my goodness, my mom has chicken in the backyard. Oh my goodness, we're gonna drink a juice, fruit juice. I want Coke. You're like, oh, I can't believe that. I'm so embarrassed. And nowadays, you see how chic it is that you have your chickens in your backyard, you have fruits in your backyard. You can make a juice, right? So I was rich and I didn't know that.
No, you know what, and I got a comment. And you talked about when you don't know if you've never had certain things. When I was growing up, I remember we grew up in DC, and we would make bean soup, right? We always had bean soup. But I remember my mom used to crack an egg in the soup, and that was like our protein. But it's like maybe you didn't have, like you said, by the end of the month, your food, your money's gone, so you just kind of eat what you have. And I remember as a kid, that was such a treat for me to have an egg cracked in the soup, in my bean soup, and that was really a treat. So each one of us got an egg, and that was a treat. So it's really, you make of it what you have, and obviously I had a really nice time growing up. And like you said, I don't know how I have 3 kids right now, and I'm spending $160 when I go out to lunch with my 3 daughters and my wife. So I'm just like, I don't know, you said your family had 12 kids. So it's interesting how they were able to put food on our tables, and that's part of it. Is we weren't buying filet mignon, we weren't buying steaks every day. It was beans, rice, tortillas. We like the forofo, like we can't eat without tortillas in the Salvadoran culture. Like we always have tortillas wherever we eat, with beef, chicken, steak, whatever it is. There's always tortillas there. The corn flour tortillas.
Cool. Yeah, for us it's farofa or farinha d'água. Cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop because otherwise I'm gonna talk all night long about these things, right? Because it's your childhood,
It's a
your
lot of
background.
fun. No, it's always fun. And I love, I went to Brazil. I had a lot of incredible food, and I love just traveling and just seeing, how different it is and the different spices that they use. So I definitely enjoyed my time there. Okay, well, I appreciate that. And I guess Lisa, our next panelist would be.
Well, I know there's from
Ah,
Mexico, the
hi,
Yucatan.
Mary Hernandez. Hi, Mary,
Oh,
welcome.
Mary?
Yes, yes.
Oh, hi, yes, from Veracruz.
No, okay. Well, tell us
It's
a little
me?
bit about yourself. And yeah, it's your turn. Tell us a little about yourself. And I know we talked about you being from Veracruz, and I know
Yeah,
Veracruz is near the coast, right? It's near
yes,
the water.
it's Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, yeah. So I'm sure you have a lot of seafood.
A lot.
Yeah. So
Well,
one of our go ahead. One of our dishes at my restaurant is pescado a la Veracruz, a la Veracruzana. So it's
I
just
will
broiled
I
fish.
will love to go to the churros and try the Veracruz pescado, right? And my mouth is getting watery with all this Brazilian and Salvadorian stories and what you guys sharing. So I came here like long time ago. And when I was here, I really miss my food from where I am from. So I really miss my grandma food and my mom, and I was very young, so I didn't know how to cook. So luckily my two sisters was here, my oldest two sisters. So they teach me how to make tortillas, how to make like pierna al horno, like pierna al horno is like pork shoulder in the oven with a lot of spices, different kind of chilies, a lot of red chilies, some spicy ones, and some are like black chilies, and it's kind of adobo, and we use that a lot in our when we cook. So I learned how to make like frijoles and rice, and most of the food I know how to cook, I learned from my sisters, and my sister learned from my mom and grandma in Mexico, because I do remember how my mom's and my grandma's food taste. It was amazing, amazing. So there was a old-fashioned they cook old-fashioned. So they brought everything here, and they're until now we cook all like the dishes my mom and my grandma cook over there in Mexico, like chiles rellenos from Veracruz are very different from the chiles rellenos in the north of Mexico or the center of Mexico. The center of Mexico, they use this big kind of chiles. They use poblano chiles. So we use jalapenos, and it's very, very different. The stuff we put in there is very, very different. So I had many friends from Mexico, from other states, and when we cook our chiles and we give to them, they always say, oh my God, this is very, very different and very, very delicious. And is everybody listening?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Um,
let me make a comment to that. It's very interesting that you say that, because one thing that's also interesting is every country, depending on what part of the country you have, a lot of times things are prepared completely different. and I think Iane kind of mentioned something that, where she's from, it might be, different. And I know in Mexico, it's the same kind of deal, and I think maybe in Veracruz, maybe they have a dish that's traditional to Veracruz. And just like my wife is from San Salvador, from the capital of El Salvador. And for Easter, we make these little fish cakes. And for us, it has like a corn flour coat, like almost like an empanada, and we put it in soup. And they do it with egg, and they do it, but they call it the same thing, but they do it completely different depending on what part of the country you're from. So it's interesting, that you recognize. And obviously Mexico is very, very big.
Yes, very, very big. Every state have different styles. Even if they make the same, like ribs, like my mom, she used to make these casseroles with ribs, and I tried with with other friend from, I don't remember what state she is from, and it's very, very different. So we make and she say, oh, we can make, I make that too, and I try it, but it's very, very different, but it's very good too, very good. But like the chiles rellenos especially is very different. Not a lot of people know about this recipe that we have. But everybody who try it is getting lost. I don't know if Kevin Escobar tried this with my sister, because my sister is married with one brother of Kevin Escobar. So I don't know if Kevin tried these chiles rellenos before, or I don't know. But Kevin?
Were they spicy?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think people, I think most restaurants here are Tex-Mex, right? They're not full, Mexican. I mean, one thing I definitely found out in Mexico quickly, I like spicy, but definitely I had some, ¿cómo se llama? What are they're like a sandwich, milanesa, torta. Oh my gosh, I have tortas over there that just put my mouth on fire. I like, it's, but Kevin,
it's funny because, sorry, we in Veracruz, in where I am from, where I born in Córdoba, Veracruz. So we make some kind of special tortas. It's like sandwich. Is with we call that telera. It's like a bolillo. How you call bolillo? It's like a French bread, something like that. So yes, yes, something, but it's there come like in it's small, like this big. So I don't know. In my kids, they're in love with my tortas, with my sandwich. They say I made the best. So we sometimes my sister, they made those, but they always come here and say, yeah, they're so good, but you are the best. Your tortas. So we put some frijoles, then we make some pork meat in the oven with a lot of species. And then we put that in the on the torta, and then we put some like pico de gallo, and then we put some avocado. We put some oil. We put some oil. And we put some mayonnaise, and we put some chile chipotle. chipotle sauce, and all that taste make the torta or the sandwich taste so good. And we had many dishes too, but I cannot explain everything to you. So I love to cook. I really enjoy cook.
No, thank you. Yeah, and and I'm really enjoying these conversations because I've traveled as well, but every place that you go, and I tell people, a lot of people go to Cancun, you cannot find Mexican food in Cancun. Like when you're in the hotel area, when I go there, I actually last time I talked to my taxi driver, and I said, take me where you eat, and he took me to this taqueria, and he was like, look, you could eat here, but here's my number. Don't leave here. He said, just call me and I'll pick you up because like the area is not the best. And I said, okay, as long as the food is good. And that's when I got real like tacos and real Mexican food and spicy and, really, really enjoyed it. So thank you, Mary, and, for sharing with us and sharing about your mother and, everybody's mom's food is always the best. So
Yes.
my mom makes the best pupusas. So.
And
So
I
we're
love pupusas. Love it. Oh, my kids love pupusas.
Thank you so much, Mary. And with that, we're gonna move on to Kevin Escobar de
Of
Guatemala.
course. Of course.
And I'm I'm not very familiar with Guatemalan food, so I'm really curious to really hear from Kevin. Are you there, Kevin?
Yeah. Where did I go? Can you still see me?
No, for some reason the camera's not there. Let me see if there's a way I can turn it on from here.
Yeah, I was seeing myself earlier.
Yeah, for some reason it went dark.
It did.
For a second. Let me see where he is.
Really close the camera. Sometimes you try to clean a little bit and you flip closed.
No, I don't
I
think.
didn't even
Oh,
I
here he
didn't
is.
even
Here he is.
touch
Here he
the
is.
screen or anything.
Ask to start video. I'm asking him to restart his video. So the video just went off. Do you
That's
see
weird. I did.
Can-
I clicked it again, but I don't know what happened.
Here, let me see if I can do it here. Ask to start video.
It says it's
Well, we can come back to you if you want to log off and come back
yeah.
in. I think that would work best.
Yeah, do that and then I come back. I don't know what happened to the screen.
Right. Good. Okay. Well, we have Marilee Mojica on with to talk about Puerto Rican food. How about Marilee?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yes.
Well, I logged in late, so I logged in as the gentleman was talking about rice pudding from his country, and I was interested in hearing some of his ingredients because I'm a New Yorican. I was born in New York, and my parents are from Puerto Rico, but I spent my summers and my Christmas there, and I pretty much eat the foods all the time. Although I love all foods. But I thought about our rice pudding because our rice pudding takes raisins, coconut, sugar, cinnamon, vanilla, and it's more of a process. It's not just, I find that American rice pudding is just rice and milk. And then I was thinking about one of the foods that we had, the gentleman was talking about mondongo, and I grew up on mondongo and I like it every Sunday with the tribes, and I don't think it's a poor people's food. I think it's a good food. Then I started to think about, someone mentioned also how buying the groceries at the African store. When I first got here to DC, the only place that I can get ingredients that I was familiar with was in Langley Park and a lot of the African stores. Giant since then and Safefood have stepped up. But some of my favorite foods are the holiday foods, the pasteles, which we call made with yuca, green bananas, green bananas, and yuca, yame, and potatoes, and it's all grind, and mixed into a batter with a little bit of milk and salt and pepper, and then meat is in the middle, and it's folded and it's boiled, and it's one of my favorite holiday dishes. Pasteles, the arroz con dulce, which is the rice pudding that I mentioned. We make our own eggnog, which I also like. We call it coquito. And the thing about the rice pudding with us is because we use the coconut, the grain coconut for the milk. After that is done, we use the leftover coconut to make a coconut dessert, which we call dulce de coco. And then I was relating to the woman that said that la pierna de horno is what we call the penin. I think somehow we're all related, just giving it different names. The two things that I have never had avocado tea, but there's a drink in Puerto Rico called mavi, made from mavi leaves. And I've done a lot of traveling and I've never been able to find it anywhere. Or another drink that we drink is ajonjoli. I don't know what ajonjoli is made of, but those are my two favorite natural juices from Puerto Rico that I won't find anywhere else. I am a foodie and I eat from wherever I go. I try their foods. I love other people's culture, but I'm very connected to my foods. That's the best I could do. Oh, the one thing is when we cook meat, for me, we usually put garlic in what we call the pilon with salt and pepper, and then we just grain it, and we use that garlic, mashed garlic with all the ingredients, and we rub it on the meat. I like to do it and let it sit for a couple of hours. It soaks in the flavor. So does anyone have any questions? That's all I have.
Oh, thank you. So I'm now very, very curious to try coconut in our, you're right though, the arroz con leche is not just that. I mean, we definitely put a cinnamon. My mom would put raisins, and you just reminded me of that. Because like right now, we normally don't put raisins in it, but I remember my mom would sometimes put raisins because they would plump up, once you cook them.
Right.
They would plump up and they would just be, because raisins are usually really dry, but once you're cooking them in that, they're like really juicy. So
That's
now
right.
I'm like, I got to try coconut, and I love coconut. And that's a staple, I think, in our country as well. We make candy out of it. Don't use as much in like rice. There's a lot of countries that use it, with the rice, with the milk in their rice. But when we go to the beach, El Salvador is very much beachfront. We have probably the most beachfront in Central America, I think. And we always have coconuts. Like, when you're coming from the airport, you see all these coconut stands everywhere. And people, first thing they want to do is drink that coconut water. But I had the pleasure of going to Puerto Rico and the mofongo. Mofongo, and they have mofongo de plátano, mofongo mixed with cassava and plátano. And that is just
it's graduated.
amazing.
It's graduated because now you could get mofongo con camarones, mofongo con pollo. You could get mofongo any way you want, but traditionally it was done with pork and pork skin and garlic.
Yeah.
What I found interesting about the mofongo is that Dominicans make it. We fry the plantains and then we mash it, and we also use the pilon for the mofongo. They do it, but they boil there, and they call it magu. Now I have a friend that is Cuban and he calls it fufu, which is interesting because Africans refer to fufu as any food that is mashed. So I think that somehow we got it from Africa and everyone gave it its name, and Cubans kept the original name for some reason. I think
so
food
interesting.
is interesting. The history of food, I think, is very interesting.
Yeah, because I had a friend he's like, who was from Africa. I can't remember what countries when I was younger, and his mother would say, "Eat your fufu." Eat your, and I'm like, what's fufu? But it's very interesting. And plantain is also, another one of those things that's very, most of the Latin American countries have some kind of dish or do something. We do traditionally, we do fried sweet plantain, and then we serve it with like a cream, like a sour cream and like refried beans. So that's traditionally, it's like that's.
Do you serve that in your restaurant? Do you serve that in your restaurant?
Yeah, it's a plátano. So that's a Salvadoran. So we have like, we actually buy a case and we let it ripen during the week as we're using another case that we get in, because they have to be really ripe so that they, but the sweet and saltiness, the saltiness from the beans or the sour cream, with the sweetness of the plantains is such
I'm
a
sure
great
this is a
contrast. And it's, and that's one of those things where it's a treat. I mean, it's not the healthiest food. We're eating, a fruit and we're frying it and we're serving it with like, refried beans, but it's something that definitely, brings you back. And that's why, like, when my restaurant, you weren't here in the beginning, but we've been around 35 years, one of the first Salvadoran restaurants in Montgomery, well, the first Salvadoran restaurant in Montgomery County. My family started one of the first restaurants in Washington, D.C. in the early 80s. And that was part of it. People want their home cooked food, the stuff that their mom used to make, and you couldn't really find it. So that's why, in the beginning, most people didn't know Salvadoran food. So it was really in the beginning.
I had
it was
never known it until I came here. I was introduced to pupusas here. I had never known it. I do like pupusas, and I do.
We're Salvadoran communities are in Los Angeles, they're in Houston, and they're here in the DMV. Like, we have, I think, estimates of like 600, 700,000 Salvadorans here in the DMV. So it's a large community. So that's why almost everywhere you go.
Why I noticed that, like, for instance, in Columbia Heights, you see Salvadorians selling their juices or their different that I'd never seen that before. But when I am in New York, because there's a large Puerto Rican population in New York, I can find any of the foods that I'm used to. Now, I was gonna say, when I talked about the rice pudding, we make it very special, but we also have something called arroz con leche, which is just rice with milk. It's kind of like a breakfast meal. You cook it with a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, rice and milk, and you serve it like a food. You don't put a lot of rice, you just put like a soup almost. And so that's why when I think of American rice pudding, that's what I think it reminds me of. It's just rice and milk, sort of. But I would love to check out your restaurant. I would love to check it out.
Yeah, definitely. And we actually make another, desserts. We make a rice pudding with just the rice flour, and we call it poleada. So you can actually just eat it just like that with cinnamon, and it's just like a porridge. But we also make empanadas de plátano, which are the empanadas, but they're stuffed with that rice porridge or rice pudding inside. And it's made into an empanada with sweet plantains, and then it's deep fried. And traditionally they sprinkle sugar on top of it when they serve it. So I grew up,
I love empanadas. I love empanadas.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Lisa, you should arrange a date where several people go to eat there, so we could all sort of sample everything.
You're making me hungry, and I'm actually sitting in the restaurant.
Look in the month, we can find a date when it's not too crowded, and we can bring a group of folks. And I'll send an email to everyone. We'll try to find a date. Because I've got everyone's email from here. Thank you so much, Marilee. You've gotten me craving some rice pudding and all kinds of stuff. Always good to see you, Marilee. Omar, I think we have Silvia from Peru, and then we also have another Peruvian person here, Pepe Piedra.
All right, well, let's start with Silvia. Silvia, welcome. Just, tell us a little bit about yourself. And obviously we're talking about food today, and we definitely have a lot of Peruvian restaurants around, and, so we definitely love the Peruvian food.
That's right. Yes. Peruvian food has become so popular. I'm so proud to be part of that food world. I consider myself a foodie, so I'm very proud to hear that Central Restaurant in Lima, Peru is the #1 restaurant in, this is by CNN. So it's very exciting to be part of that. I am Peruvian. I came here when I was 5 years old. I came with my family, and I've been here ever since. I've been going back to Peru very often, and so I haven't lost that connection with being Peruvian, with part of that having that culture and having all the amazing food. And yes, I grew up in a family that we always ate Peruvian food at home. And every time we had to go out to a restaurant, it was always going out to a Peruvian restaurant. So it was, for me growing up, I just had Peruvian food all the time. It wasn't, there was no other option. My mom made Peruvian food, and that's what we ate, and that's what I learned to cook. And now it's nice to have my kids who are grown come back home and ask for traditional Peruvian food. I love it.
So what's your, I guess, your memories of childhood, and what really brings you back, what brings you back to your family and to your home, and, what's traditional for you? I mean, we here, Peruvian chicken, obviously, charbroiled chicken is what most people think of, but lomo saltado, ceviche, my wife loves ceviche. That's one of her favorite things, but, traditionally, I think Peruvian ceviche is also, very popular. But for you, what's something that brings you back home and that you consider a staple, Peruvian dish?
Yes, well, it's hard to say there is a staple Peruvian dish. Here we have pollerias, we have different restaurants, and they always offer the Peruvian chicken. So that's what we're known for. There's also the lomo saltado, we have the ceviche. But for me, Peruvian food is much more than that. I was blessed to be the daughter of somebody of my father is from the Andes. He's from Ayacucho, Peru. He's not from Lima. He's from Ayacucho, Peru. And my mom is from the northern coast of Peru. So I had the best of both worlds as far as cuisine goes. One day I could have been eating fried guinea pig. Another day I could be eating a goat stew. So for me, it's so much more than just and the chicken. There are so many climates, so many subclimates, microclimates, and it allows for so many different kinds of cuisines. You have the Andes, you have the coast, you have the jungle, and there are so many different plates from those different areas. And luckily, I had food from the Andes, and you have a lot of potatoes in the Andes, a lot of yuca, you eat a lot of goat, you eat guinea pig, no part is waste, everything. In the northern part of Peru, you have a lot of fish, you have a lot of goat, and it's family is always brought together through food. And so for me, growing up and being in the kitchen with my family, now I get my kids, it's very nice. It brings back fun memories, always being in the kitchen with family and just being around food.
I think Lisa was asking, what does the fried guinea pig, like the cuy frito, what does it taste like? Is it like rabbit or?
Well, you know how they always say it tastes like chicken? Well, no, it doesn't. It doesn't taste like, but I don't know. I invite you to come to Peru and to taste it for yourself. It's delicious. I can't think of something similar, a similar taste. I just think it has its own flavor. It's not very big. You have it fried, and you always accompany it with crema de rocoto, which rocoto is a pepper, and make a creamy sauce with it. And so you have your sliced potato, because Peru, we have more than 400 potatoes, so we're gonna serve everything with potatoes. So you have your fried guinea pig with your potatoes, with your crema de rocoto, and of course, a nice beer.
No, that's great. And I'm guessing in the Andes, there's not a lot of fish. So there's probably not a lot of ceviche up there.
Not so much ceviche, but we do have rivers in the Andes. So we do have trucha frita. Yeah, we do have a nice amount of fish.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about how just, it's amazing how even within one country, you can travel, maybe 100 miles and the food is completely different, or people have the same dish, but they prepare it completely different depending on, what part of that country you're from. So, diversity is, obviously each country has its own diversity, but it's interesting that even within the country, there's just diversity of culinary, arts as well. So it's a very interesting observation.
Absolutely.
It says, somebody asked, is there a market you'd recommend that has a variety of potatoes more than the usual supermarket, at least?
Mhm. Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I was recently in the Dominican Republic, and it was because you guys eat the mango and you put salt in it and lemon, I think. Is it you? Are you guys the ones? Anyway, we just eat it off the tree. But when I was in Dominican Republic, I discovered this town called Bani. They're known for mangoes, and their mangoes don't come to the United States, because they're not perfectly shaped like the ones that come from Mexico. But they have 100 mangoes, and each one is different. And like they have one called Puntito, which actually has a point. They have a little one that's called Café con Leche. So I'm thinking that kind of what you were saying, in every country or every region, whatever it is, there's many things that we will never sample that will stay within that country.
Thank you.
Mm.
Hear me? Sorry, it broke up on me. Not sure if I'm still.
I just wanted to say that because we were talking about how every country has different things, and in one country, and I just think that there's a lot of things that here in the States we will never sample from other parts of the world.
Yeah, I mean, we do get a lot of things, but especially when you go to those markets, in the countryside, you see stuff that you'd never ever seen, and
That's right.
those are where you get curious to try, start sampling things. And that's what I like to do when I travel. I go to those little markets. I don't like to go to the touristy areas. I like to really, see the difference in cultures.
Mhm.
So, well, thank you very much for that comment. Silvia, was there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think I said it all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I think from that, I think we're going to move on and continue with Kevin. So hopefully Kevin got his camera issue resolved.
I think it's working. Can you listen? Can you listen to me?
We
Good.
can hear you and we can see you.
Good. That's good. I don't know what happened because I didn't even touch the computer. I'm over here in the back. But yeah, so I am Kevin. I'm from Guatemala, and I am from the higher part of the country, which is the mountainside, And yeah, most definitely, the food, it's so different from the coast, from where I am. And but I since Central American guy or families, we are big families, and eating meat or anything else was like a privilege. Like eating steak was a privilege. So we all got into much more vegetables than meat. So the way we prepare food over there is different than the coast or the other sides, because most of our foods are made with a lot of vegetables. And since we live in the mountain kind of side of the country, we make a lot of soups. So that's all kinds of vegetable soups, or something that we call recado, which is like a thick paste type of soup. It's not really a soup, but it's just a very thick food. And yeah, so I remember that with the chances we had to be in the kitchen, at least I used to like to be in the kitchen. It was to prepare everything, all the vegetables, cut the skin off, chop them, and help the mom to prepare everything. It was a lot of fun for me to do it. And so I learned how to cook many things, which is helping me now as an adult to actually, cook my own food. But yeah, the most fun part, I guess, for us is to know the ingredients that the food takes, because there is a lot of spices that we use. And I think that's what gives the food actually the variety or taste from each part of the country. Because some people use this type of, in Guatemala, we don't eat a lot of spicy food. Like chile, you know, like the burn your mouth. We don't use that, but we used a lot of different ingredients that give food a lot of taste. And a lot of leaves, we use a lot of leaves that gives the food really good taste. And yeah, food has been is so different than United States. Well, I don't want to talk about the United States in that sense, but we miss the fact that everything, all the ingredients that we use for food was so fresh. We will go get at the market or in your backyard, you know, and it was so fresh, and it took hours to make. Some of those preparations took many processes and hours to make. And that was the very interesting part, how long this food takes and the preparation that they took, because the recipes are from, you know, for many years in the past, and they've been passed on to the new generations. And that's why we say, you know, my mom's food tastes good, because, you know, it's the same, it's the same tradition of making. And it brings everybody together, like the smell, and such a smell, the particular smell of the food is like, if you walk by somebody's street and you're like, oh, they're cooking estofado, you know, because it smells like it. It's just the aroma of the food is incredible. Yeah, it's really cool. And yeah, I agree with the egg in our bean soup, because it is true. It's like we couldn't afford much meat, you know, so we will do so. We will put we will add eggs, because everybody has access to eggs. You have kitchens in the back, you know, and it was easy to go get a couple of eggs, because, you know, there was you cannot afford it to go get. Can you imagine, you have 8 kids, 9 kids in the house? It's a lot of food, you know, it's a lot of money to use. So we would just grab the eggs from the back, you know, kitchen, so they're running, just get the eggs, and we use them, and it will make more, you know, I guess, because we were so many kids, they will actually include the eggs just so everybody can have a decent meal.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think, you know, I didn't know if it's just me, you know, that's what I grew up, but I guess that's just tradition, you know. We were just, when you know, when you're limited to what you have, you just work with what you have, you know.
Yeah,
but,
you know, like for example, like having a piece of steak was like a privilege, because at first it was very expensive. And so to feed a big family with steak, it was like impossible. So families, or in my house, we will actually have a tiny little piece of steak on Sunday or every other Sunday, you know, and it was not a lot. It was just a small portion of it. And we ate it with such a, you know, such a happiness, because it was just something delightful to do, you know, because most of the time it was just vegetables, which was really good, by the way.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, it's funny. I mean, I grew, you know, growing up here, I have my 3 daughters, right? And, you know, my daughters will come and they're like, Dad, steak again? And I'm just like, you know, I'm like, you girls don't, you know, I have 3 daughters, so they're like, you girls have no clue. And it's very different too, in the sense that when I was growing up, it was like, boom, this is what's for dinner, right? We're eating bean soup. My mom reheated the bean soup. And then like my daughters are like, no, what else do you have? You know, it's a totally different world. But I'm also teaching them how to cook. So they have to cook for themselves. If they don't like what daddy's providing, they can go ahead and pick something else out of the fridge and cook it themselves.
I think there's something very good to do. Like you have to teach the unit, like my kids cook, you know, I cook in the house, and I will tell them, you know, this is how you do it. It's just so simple, you know, it doesn't take much to do it. It's important to do that, because you limit that faculty of humanity to process, to actually survive in an environment. You have to eat, and sometimes you cannot really be spending too much money on food, and sometimes you don't even know what you're getting. But if you cook, it's a little more healthier, and for your mind, for your soul, just be able to cook something. I teach my kids how to cook, and they do it. So because it's fun, and it's actually very nice, something nice to do.
Yeah, and you know what? And my parents, once they started getting a little bit more money, I remember they would drive like, I don't know, like 45 minutes to an hour somewhere to a farm where you could buy the meat there, where it was like cheaper to buy it. And I remember they would buy and they would fill our whole freezer, you know, full of meat for like the next 6 months or whatever it was, because it was just cheaper for them to just buy going all the way up there. So there's little things that we.
And for so many families, like, having a refrigerator was also wow, you guys have a refrigerator, So all the meat was fresh. So I was fresh cut and then, bring it to the house. So we never had like something frozen, like which is just weird to have frozen. And then, it was always fresh. Everything was fresh, which was really good.
Okay. Anything else you want to add? Your favorite dish? What brings you back home? What's Guatemalan? Is there something that's considered like a staple in the Guatemalan cuisine?
Yes, there is one particular plate or dish. It's un recado. I don't know how to say that in English. It's just like a thick paste food, and we call it well, in different places they call it different. We call it revolcado, which is a really good. Yeah, it's really good. This green thick sauce with chicken and rice, and that really it's made with tomatillo.
Yeah, the green tomato. Yeah,
it's made with tomatillo, and there's a lot of green that turn this green paste, and with the rice and chicken, it's really good, and that's one of the ones that actually brings memories home. Everybody gets together because it's really, really delicious.
And I'll say it's tomate. In Mexico, it's tomate, the green tomato. We call it tomatillo, and then their red tomatoes are jitomate. So that's
Yeah.
In Guatemala, el tomate is the little green ones.
Yeah, we call them tomatillos. In Mexico, they're tomates, which to me, tomate is the red tomato, So I know Mary knows up there that she probably learned when she came here that
we call the red ones jitomates and the green ones tomatillos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now that the green ones for us are mil tomate.
Mil tomate?
Mil tomate, yes.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mil tomate, yes.
Wow, we're all learning today. Thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Kevin?
No, just thank you very much for the opportunity to share something. It was really fun. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And then I think from there, we are moving on to Pepe Piedra. Hello, how are you, Pepe?
Hola.
Buenas noches.
Mucho gusto. Thank you for having me. And I'm from Peru. And also, I'm not a chef, but as a musician, I just travel a lot and as an artist also. And my experiences, I'm fascinated with how the cooks, becomes like a love. It's the real love for everybody, If you cook, you give in love. Also, it's a magic. From a couple things you can make it, amazing things. So in Peru, we have a different kind of foods, depends on where you are. In the north and the south and the center and the jungle and the mountains and the coastal part. So we have a lot of places where, the food is so different. But the most amazing for me is the ancient cook, it's like we have like 18,000 years, kind of barbecue that we make in the Andes, in the whole Peru, and also in probably in Ecuador, Bolivia, all of these, Andes countries, probably they have the same thing. I don't know. But in Peru, we have what we call pachamanca. It's a way to cook into the earth. They make a hole in the earth and they put some, first of all, they have to bring everything that they need, no? So it's a lot of variety of meats and also vegetables and also roots, different kinds, and herbs. We have a lot of herbs that they have to put it on top. But basically, they put they make the hole, they put some hot stones. First of all, they heated the stones, like they put them on like a pyramid, they construct like a pyramid, and in the bottom, they put just fire, and they just heated the stones. When the stones are really heat, they just put it into the hole. On top of that, they put the roots. On top of that, they put some banana leaves, and then comes another layer of meats, and then they cover again, and there comes another kind of vegetables, another layer of vegetables, and then comes the herbs on top to cover everything. So everything is hot. So on top of that, they put another stones and cover with air, and everything is hot inside. Probably for 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't know how long they make it, but it's a long process. And then the food comes, really hot. When they open, it's food for everybody. And they usually do it in the mountains, for big events like weddings or whatever. It's, big events that they happen in the town or in the house. So that's the way how they make they cook in Peru, really rustic. But I recommend some YouTube video. It's called 18,000 Years Old Barbecue Style, Ancient Inca Food in Peru. So if you see that video, it's in English, of course, but so everybody can understand it. And they explain how they make the pachamanca. And also we call Pachamama to the earth. So the pachamanca is like the pot in the earth to cook. So and also in the list I have some friend. He can explain more what I'm saying now. He's a Peruvian chef, and I don't want to say his name because he's so timid. So, but he's a specialist in Peruvian food. So, and he's right there. Let me see, what is this? Peru food art. He has a. Yes, there you go. So this guy is the best. Open your mic.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
So my friend is trying to explain more about Peruvian food because he's a chef.
Yes. So my previous two people that are from Peru explain a lot already about where Peruvian cuisine is from and all the regions that it comprehends. Very diverse types of dishes. So I'll talk to you about my experience with the Peruvian cuisine. I came to the United States when I was 17 years old, and I came by myself. So the first thing I needed to do was to earn some money. And what I thought about doing was just cooking for my roommates. And of course, instead of them going outside and buying some fast food, I would tell them, give me that money and I would cook for you. And that's how I started. I have a daytime job right now, and but I have two kids that went to college, and that was last year that I started my channel, right, in YouTube, because I thought it was important for me to leave my my trace of the things that I love to do, cooking. My channel basically is, you'll see me like this. Yes, you will see my face. You don't need to see my face because what you need to see is what I cook, right? And basically I also do it because I have a daytime job and I don't want people to know. So, but I'm not shy. Now with the things that I do are basically, all the dishes from the coast of Peru. We call it comida criolla. Because I'm from Lima, the coast of Peru, and I will probably, of course, do some dishes also from the Andes and from the jungle, the Amazons in Peru. But that will be later. I just started, about a year ago, and it's going well. I care a lot about the things that I do in there. I try to present these videos as aesthetically as possible so that you can enjoy the view more than anything else. The recipes are there. I don't talk either. I just cook, right? Which is what you want to see. But one of the things that I catch you that I need to do is I want you to watch the whole thing, right? To watch the whole process. So I don't give you the recipe, on the description. I make you watch the whole thing. Sorry about that. But in any case, one of my favorite dishes, which I was about to do right now, is aguadito, which is it's a soup made with chicken and cilantro. But I had my friend giving me a text message saying, "Hey, when you come in and introduce yourself." And thank you for that, Pepe. And I'm really happy to see everyone and how they share all their knowledge on their own country's culinary food. Yeah, thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
That's cool. If somebody has any questions about Peruvian food, we can talk in right now before I say it. But
Is that Inca Cola over there?
oh, yes, I'm drinking.
I saw the yellow.
Of course,
Nice.
we are Peruvians.
No, we sell Inca Cola here at my restaurant. We're not a Peruvian restaurant, but it's very popular. We
Yes.
sell Cola Champagne, and that's a little bit more popular. And in El Salvador, you'll find Cola Champagne, but you won't
Yes.
find Inca Cola.
Yeah, they made it with. I think they made it with Yerba Luisa. How it's called in English? I can't remember the name is, but it's really long leaves.
Okay.
Like
well,
a
I know it's like
grass.
drinking candy.
Yes. So when you taste it, looks like bubble gum.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people say this is bubble gum, but we love it. This is the soda that competes with Inca Cola. Inca Cola never beat in Peru. So
Yeah.
what Inca Cola did is to buy the company half of companies from Inca Cola. I mean, in the other half is for Coca-Cola. So that's the only way they can just still get some money from us,
Really.
But that's big companies, that's the business.
All right, I think we're gonna go and see if we can take some questions from the audience. At least I guess we want people to put them in the chat, I'm guessing. So if you have any questions, Yerba Luisa is lemon verbena. Somebody answered.
I saw lemongrass.
Okay.
Lemongrass.
Do you have any questions from the audience? Not everybody at once.
They need Inca Colas.
They do. It'll wake you up. Barbara, let me see if I can unmute her. Here you go. Let me see. I'm going to send a request to unmute, Barbara. There you go.
I did unmute. I'm Lisa's mom. We're in San Diego right now. I live about 5 miles from the border of Tijuana. And if you want hot food, come here because it is hot.
I spent some time in Puebla. It's ridiculously spicy, and every place that you go to, like I said, the cuisine's very different. But some people, they definitely eat more spicy than El Salvador. We don't at all. Like maybe the cabbage for the pupusas, they might put a little bit of like jalapeno in it, but it's rare that we have anything that's spicy. But I love spicy food, so I definitely enjoyed it. But if you notice, a lot of the Salvadoran, the Tex-Mex restaurants that you go to, you have to understand a lot of these are run by Salvadorans. So we don't have that appetite for that spicy food. So most of our, the restaurants, when they're run by Salvadorans, it's really toned down, because like for us, it's easier for us to add spice to it, to make it spicy than you can't, like once you put it in there, you can't take it away. So if somebody comes and says, you know what, I want something a little bit more spicy, we'll add some habanero sauce or something in it to make it a little bit more spicy. But once you put that spiciness in there, there's no way to take it back. So, so that's why.
Not everybody can handle it. I know I can.
Yes. And I thought I could until I got some of the real, like I said, Mexican food. So is there a lot of organic food in Peru? We have a question in the chat. So Jose?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have a lot of organic food. In these times, people are more conscious about the food and all of that problems that we have with, the things that you can get sick with, thinking that you are eating healthy things, but it's not,
Thank you.
People in the Andes, in the top of the Andes, everything is organic over there.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a little easier with the weather, because sometimes the heat, humidity, it doesn't help when you're growing vegetables.
Some people live, like 4,000 meters on top of on the level of the ocean. So I don't know how many miles. I don't know in miles, but it's 4,000 metros.
4,000 meters. And then relating to the Peruvian food too, but they also ask if there's a place that you can buy the different varieties of potatoes like you have in Peru.
Yeah, we have more than 3,000, kind of potatoes in Peru.
Have you found a place here where you can buy some of those varieties?
I can answer that for you because I have to go and get all kinds of food. I go to this market called Fresh World. That has a lot of potatoes, different kind of potatoes from the United States, the frozen kind of Peruvian potatoes too, as well as you can find some Colombian potatoes. They are a little different, but yeah. So that is my place to go.
Where is the store at?
There's a lot of stores all over Northern Virginia called Fresh World.
Fresh World.
Okay. Yeah. They will have basically most of them. Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions? So says Paula says, so chunos too?
Sí, chuno is in the south, like and border with Bolivia. So Bolivia and Puno in the south is called Puno. Is where most people eat chuno.
Yeah, they will find chuno in bags. They're dried. Obviously, these are the dried, dehydrated potatoes. And you'll find them also in this store. Chuno blanco and chuno negro, black and white.
We have Mauricio Burgos says, I grew up in the countryside in El Salvador and I love spicy food. We grew chiltepes and used them a lot. and I love the pupusas at Los Chorros. We always get them with jalapeños, pupusas de arroz con frijoles, queso, y jalapeño. So an interesting fact about the pupusas, we sell pupusas de arroz, which are pupusas, but they're made with rice flour instead of corn. And there's a whole historical, fact to that, where there was an issue with the corn crops one year in El Salvador, and something happened, and they, like, pretty much all the corn just died. So they ended up making flour out of rice because people still wanted their pupusas. And then all of a sudden, people started liking those rice flour pupusas, and they're still made to this day. And we actually, we make them here at our restaurant as well. But that came about from from a scarcity of corn supply, and now they actually make them from cassava flour and a couple, different things. Pica pollo a la brasa in Germantown is somebody's favorite. Also, El Mesón has a great variety and prices are really affordable.
Yeah, pollo a la brasa is too popular, here in this area.
It's
Bien,
very,
a lot of pollos a la brasa restaurants.
but it's so delicious.
Oh, yes.
All right. So it says, thank you, Omar. I guess we're wrapping things up. I just want to thank everybody. I really, really enjoyed this. I learned a lot of new things, and it's always good talking about food. I travel a lot, and I think I've gone Peru. I have not had the pleasure of going to, but it's definitely on my list. But one of my favorite things when I travel is just trying out the different cuisine. So I really appreciate all the panelists that were on here tonight. Lisa, thank you so much, for putting this together, and having inviting me to be here, and I look forward to participating. And if you all want to come down to the restaurant, just reach out to me, and hopefully I can join you all. I'm here, a couple of days of the week. I have a general manager now, and like I said, we've been here 35 years. My general manager has been with me 33 years. So if you've been here, you've probably seen him as well. And that's what allows me to do a lot of the civic engagement that I do, is that, I have good staff, and we're family here. People stay with us because we're all a family here. So
what is the restaurant?
It's a Restaurante Los Chorros. It's in Wheaton, Maryland.
Okay.
And I'll put the in the chat the website.
We will come out. I'll organize a group out there and I'll advertise it, but I'll check with you first we'll pick a night when it won't be too busy. Because I have a feeling we'll have a lot of people that will want to come along with us. So this has been so great. Thank you so much, Omar, and all of our panelists for sharing all of your family food memories and traditions. It's such a fun and tantalizing discussion. And I agree with you too. One of the biggest greatest things about traveling is being able to try the food in those places. So thank you again, and happy Hispanic Heritage Month. And I hope you can join us again soon for more programs and events. And meet us at Los Chorros in the coming weeks.
Gracias a todos.
Okay, gracias todos.
Bye.
Gracias.